Hey everybody, it is Deanna. How's everybody doing tonight? We have a lot to talk about in a short period of time, so I'm super excited for everybody to join me tonight. It is February 22nd, 2022. So actually it's quite comical because this is a Tuesday and there's a lot of twos in our date today. So some people were saying that it was, I believe, a palinome or what, I'm not sure what they call it. But anyway, there was a lot of different folks saying that this date was, a lot of twos and you could read it the same way backwards and as forwards. And I want to let you know that if you write out the date with a placeholder 0222 2022, that's stretching it a little bit, but I know a lot of people get some fun out of that. So, go for it. Tonight's topic is going to be about narcissism. There's quite a bit of you empaths, highly sensitive people and starseeds that have been contacting me about narcissism and how does that play out in life? And even if you don't believe you have a narcissist in your life or you've never experienced it, it is important to know how narcissism affects your Akashic records, or how your Akashic records can affect your experience with narcissism. There's a lot going on in there. There's a lot to unpack. So if you have any questions as we're going along, please put them down below. And I wanted to address very quickly that the twos, as you know, for those of you that have been with me a while, 0 is where nothing and everything exists all at the same time. And a point in time or space is a 1. So you got 0, 1, and then when you take something or nothing out of the 0 space and you bring it over to the trajectory of 1, that's an event horizon, and that's 2. So a lot of 2s going on today. It's a huge event horizon numerically, and right now the way the planets are aligned in our solar system, there's so much uplift that's being offered to all of us right now to help us in our quest to become better people and lighter. And last month in February, we talked about love and how to embrace self-love. And now this month, the way the energy is sequencing itself, you may feel like you're being held back, squashed, really super challenged, like you can't handle it anymore. But you'll also notice that there's a beautiful, uplifting energy right now, just an amazing uplifting energy. So for every, if you will, wrong there is a right. So even if you're going through some really troubled times, please know that the energy is supporting you and making those things come out for your highest good, for your best good. So just keep going. All right. So like I said, if you have any questions, please post them down below. And tonight, let's talk about, I'm going to do this in a 3-part series. We're going to talk about narcissism and the Akashic Records. Tonight's topic is gaslighting. So for those of you that have never been gaslit, what does that mean? So gaslighting is when an abuser or a person tries to take control of a victim or another person by twisting their sense of reality. And for those of you that don't know what Akashic Records are, Akashic Records is the book of life. So every time you feel, see, sense, know something, it gets recorded into your subconscious brain, and then eventually it goes up to your Akashic Records, or all of your records of everything you've ever sensed, felt, smelled, touched, experienced. It's a lot. And so I started thinking about today, how do our Akashic records affect who's attracted into our life and how we experience things, especially highly sensitive people, empaths and starseeds, because we usually attract narcissistic or sociopathic behavior because we are light, because we are giving, because that's in our nature. And people will come into your life and they want to take your energy. They want to drain you. They want to just, all that yummy energy up and leave you like a dried prune. And so that started me thinking about narcissism. And again, some of this could be sociopathic. And it's important, if you are an empath, a highly sensitive person or a starseed, to pay attention to this, because people that are drawn to us will have these tendencies. And what that happens is when you experience that, it goes, like I said, into your subconscious brain, and then it begins to go up into the ethers where you have another brain and memory set, and eventually to the Akashic Records. And it begins to affect not only this current lifetime, but it may trigger other lifetimes where you had similar treatment, where you had similar circumstances. The fabulous news is if anything I say tonight resonates with you and you're like, oh, me, I'm experiencing that right now. Well, guess what? We can access, you and me, we can access your Akashic Records, and we can go find out all the lifetimes that resonate with that. And especially right now, since the age of Aquarius came in, the big one, the new age, the dawning of the new age, we now have access to not only hundreds of Akashic Records, but billions, and I've seen trillions and Googles of Akashic Records in the various universes if you've been around that long. And so we have access to go and just clear all that energy and get it gone as much as possible, so you have less to deal with in this life. You have less to process, less to address, less to go through. And who couldn't use a little less to go through right now? Okay, so gaslighting. So what happens with gaslighting is an abuser or a person tries to take control of another person by twisting their sense of reality. Okay, and the number one way that narcissism will affect your Akashic Records, now it stimulates other records to come forward and be processed in this life. If you don't take care of it, it also creates records that will go into other lifetimes. So that's why it's so pivotal in here in this moment. But the first thing, you find yourself questioning your beliefs. How many of you out there, by a thumbs up, a smiley face, or an angry face, have ever found yourself questioning your beliefs based on what other people say to you? Where you express yourself and you say, you know, this is how I really believe, and this is what I see going on. And then all of a sudden they begin questioning you, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, you know, am I right? You know, even though you're solid in understanding what you're talking about. So again, if you've ever experienced someone questioning your beliefs, now I know there's a lot of strong people out there, and big hugs and kisses may not be you, but you begin to question what you believe because they press you, or perhaps they twist things, and you begin to wonder what's going on. Like, you could have been repeatedly told, well, you know, how come you believe that? Or what makes you think you believe that? And so you explain it to them thinking they're a reasonable person, and you explain to them how you feel, and they take everything you say and they twist it, and they tell you that you're bad or wrong, or that can't possibly be right, or what basis in fact do you have? So just take a look for that. All right, number two, what else can cause you to question your reality is people will actually, in that getting you to question things, they'll get you to question what's happened. Okay, so there were times in my life when my particular narcissist and sociopath, I knew that something happened. I knew I had checked something off, I had done something, I'd completed something, or I had talked to them about something. I said, hey, you know, this is how I feel, and blah, 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 blah. And then later they would act like it never happened, like they never talked to me about it, they never discussed it, and I must be out of my mind because it never happened. So how many of you have experienced that out there? Even if you're watching the recording, if you've experienced that where you've been talking to somebody and they're like, yeah, that didn't happen. You didn't, you know, take the car and park it somewhere else, you know, because it's you know, still right here. In the meantime, what they did is they went over where you parked the car and moved it back or something. Or I found it a lot in my relationships where I would have discussions with them about, hey, you know, you're violating my boundaries, you're hurting my feelings, please don't do that anymore. And then the second time they'd come back, they'd do the same thing. And I'd say, hey, we talked about this, and I told you, I don't like this, please don't do this anymore. And they'd be like, no, we never talked about that. You never spoke about it. And how did I know it would upset you? And so it began to have me start questioning my reality, you know, and being highly sensitive, empath or a starseed, especially if you're empathic or a starseed, you often understand that there is more than one concurrent timeline happening at the same time. So, there's a whole bunch of timelines all happening. It just depends on where your consciousness is. And for some of us that are very gifted and we can go in between timelines, especially when we're accessing the Akashic Records, because you're traveling through timelines to get information. When that happens, sometimes you wonder if you landed in a different timeline than the one that you thought you were in, which is also possible. But when you have a narcissistic personality that begins to get you to question things repeatedly and causes you to question what really happened, did I really say that? Did I not say that? Do I think I said that? Did I plan on saying it? Then that starts messing with your concept of the 3D reality you're currently in now. And if you work in different timelines like I do, then you're wondering, well, did I go to another timeline and I thought I did that and I came back and I really didn't? Or did my personality jump to another timeline in a parallel reality? So if you've ever experienced anything like that, give me a thumbs up. I'm not seeing very many of you out there tonight. I'm wondering if you're alive. Is anybody alive out there? Can you give me a thumbs up? And there we go. Woohoo! All right. So we know you're alive. All right. That's good. We didn't slip into another timeline. Anyway, okay. So again, when we're looking at gaslighting and how that messes with your Akashic records, if I'm being clear and you all are understanding what I'm saying, please do give me a smiley face or a thumbs up to let me know. This is a very deep subject, and I do the best I can to make it as base as possible. Because once you've been doing this line of work for so many years and things become normal to you, and then you begin to explain them to other folks, it's like, did I say that, in a way that people understand? So I appreciate the thumbs up. Anyway, let me go along. So we have, let's see, the narcissism and Akashic records. We're talking about gaslighting tonight. And so what happens is when somebody begins to gaslight you, which means they have you questioning your beliefs, they have you questioning your own reality, what really happened. Then when you begin to question your own reality and what really happened, this messes with your concept of time and timelines and reality. And that's not good, like I said, especially for starseeds, because we don't feel very oriented anyway. So you would put that on top of it. All right. And so often you'll hear a narcissist tell you when you're explaining something to them that you were there, they were there, and something came into play, they will say it didn't happen that way. And you distinctly remember it, your memory's good, and it did. And they're denying it with such an energy and a straight face that it causes you to question your reality. Okay, number three. Number three is they block you and are unsupportive of your growth. So one of the ways that gaslighting can happen is for people to be unsupportive of your growth, which is really quite interesting because I experienced that with my own narcissistic female parental unit, is what I call her. And anytime that I started to show my gifts when I was very small, anytime that I came out of the box, or, children, we have no filter. And we look at something and we say, hey, that's, this is what's happening. And it. She would block me and say, no, we don't say things like that. You have to talk more proper. You're not allowed to freely express yourself. You have to be a lady and close your mouth and smile and wave and all those kind of things. When I actually could see through other people, not literally like Superman's X-ray eyes, but we would go to an event and I would see a woman her age, and I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I would see a woman her age, and that woman would just be telling all kinds of lies about how I love you all, you're so wonderful, so glad you came. And inside you could see her energy, and she was just irritated that we were even there. And I would see that. And as a kid with no filter on your mouth, when these ladies would say different things, I would call them on their poop. And I did feel sorry for, the female parental unit, because she would, put her hand over my mouth and say, oh, you have to excuse her. And then I get griped out later for having said something so rude when it was actually something that was so true. But anyway, so how does that block you? So basically, my female parental unit was what they call a highly sensitive person. And so she had her own challenges growing up, and she tried to express herself. And she was often told that her self-expression was bad or wrong. And so she was blocked. And that caused her to have all kinds of mental and emotional issues. And so as I began to blossom as a young lady, and I began to achieve things and I was good at them, then I would be taken to those events. So if those of you who've ever been around a narcissist, you can relate to this. And she would take me to those events. And she would let me be all wonderful and win, first place at these events I was doing. And then when we got in the car, I got dressed down because apparently, it was all to her effort. That's the reason that I won, and that's being blocking to some young girl's emotions and her self-worth and her self-love, and it blocks and it stuns your growth. So when that happens, you're like, okay, how does that relate to the Akashic Records? Well, when that happened to me, it got stored in my subconscious mind. And then my subconscious mind pulled it up into the ethers. We have minds up here. And then it went into my Akashic Records. And so when that gets stored there, and you begin to come out as a highly sensitive person, starseed or empath, your Akashic Records will often store things from this current life. And sometimes that energy hasn't been worked out yet. So it will be projected into your future. So last week, I was having some challenges and I asked my guides, where's this energy coming from? And it was coming from this present timeline in 2 months. And once I cleared the energy, everything shifted. So Akashic Records can store things of this life, again, and it can be things from the past or things your soul hasn't worked out and is put into the future. So what's going on in your life? Are there things that you can identify with about gaslighting that may have happened to you, even if you didn't have a narcissistic parent? What's going on for you? And how is that affecting your world? The very most wonderful thing is, again, the energies are uplifting us. They will be for about the next 26 days. So take advantage of it. Any changes you can make in your life, any shifts you can make in your life, any steps that you can move forward. This is the time. So if you're sitting there, either on the recording or live, and you're like, wow, Deanna, I really relate to this. This is where I'm at. And I'm trying to move forward and I'm attempting to move forward, but I still am having trouble feeling loved. I'm still having trouble wanting to succeed, because I'm almost there and then I get stuck and I'm not sure why. Let's have a look in your records and find the energy that's there and clear it out of your etheric bodies and subconscious minds, and then get you set in the right direction, give you some tools so that you can move forward and experience the most joyful life ever. That's the greatest thing about this year. We've had 2 pretty crappy years, and now we're entering this beautiful time, this beautiful dawning where we're going to have a much easier year this year. We're almost to March. And so that's the time. It's kind of funny that fell around spring too. It's a time for rebirth and coming out and shedding the poop. So if you'd like to do that, right up here in the description, if you're watching on Facebook Live, I did put a link to the sessions, and this Thursday and Friday, I put a link up there for the sessions, and I put a discount coupon code so you all can get the deep dish discount and get yourself started, because I know a lot of you out there are hurting. A lot of clients have been calling me. They just don't know what's wrong, but they're feeling stuck. They're feeling unloved, and they're feeling this undulating power of wanting to go forward. And it's just like one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas. So if that's where you're at, please go over to toolsofenergyprotection.com and click on services. And up here in the link on Facebook, you will find the code for the coupon so that you can put that in when you check out and get a little discount for yourself. And then if you're on Tools of Energy Protection on my website or on Tools of Energy Protection on the YouTube channel, just go right down here and there'll be a link If you have any questions, let me know. Next week, again, we'll visit narcissism, but instead of gaslighting, we'll move on to another part called triangulation and how does that affect your Akashic records and your health. So I hope you have a great, wonderful night. Thanks each and every one of you for joining me. Big hugs and kisses. Have a great, wonderful night.